Hello everyone, welcome along to another VCO Esports studio with me, Ben Constanduros. First of all, a couple of parish notices if you like. Thank you very much to Anthony who stood in for me last week, and apologies to iRacing for not being able to make that particular show. As you can see, we're back in the office, which is good. We're back at home, and I got hit by a storm, and that's why I look like I've just had a shower. That's all the parish notices. Let's go on to meeting our newest member of the elite club that has been interviewed by the VCO Esports studio in about the year that we've now been going. And last weekend was, I think, round 3 of the VCO Sim Grid World Cup, a very, very high-end endurance series, 12 hours of Donington. I don't know. Unfortunately, I was not paying a huge amount of attention because I was elsewhere. But the man who took the victory, I do know that, alongside his teammates Artur Kammerer and Nils Naujoks, was Gregor Schill, who joins us now. Gregor, thank you so much for having us. It was Donington, right?
It was Donington, exactly. 12 hours.
Yeah. I was paying enough attention. Right, so just tell us how challenging these endurance races are on the sim grid. It does seem to be an incredibly high-end championship.
Yeah, honestly, it's really high end. We have top class sim racing drivers from all over the world competing in this specific championship. And yeah, especially on Donington, we got a little bit lucky with the BOP of our car, so we were able to compete with the others. And yeah, it's really challenging as we need to prepare a lot with the setup, different conditions to be always, on the right step. And yeah, at the end, we came out on top.
Yeah, so teammates Artur Kammerer and Nils Naujoks. I think Nils has been on our show, God, probably about 5 or 6 months ago now. Artur is the next target. What's it like having those two as teammates, especially Nils, because we know he's a bit of a character?
Yeah. I mean, every one of us gets, passionate about sim racing, especially when we are in the car and quite emotional. But it's really nice to have both, these sim racing legends, so to say, in the team where I can learn from them. Because like I came in February into the team as a junior, so yeah, I'm trying to learn from them everything, not only pace wise, but also mentally wise and stuff. Yeah.
So part of the G2 Esports, but for this particular championship, part of BMW Motorsport, that must be a huge pleasure.
Yeah, of course. It's so nice to represent, BMW as a brand here, driving the car in ACC. It feels amazing. It's really nice. Although we know that the car is already not the newest one. We have already the M4 GT3 in the real life. But still, it's nice to drive for BMW and represent them. And then if we get with like an underdog car over the championship, and then when it counts where the car is good, when we get the win, it's just amazing.
And it's fair to say that when ACC was brought out, the BMW was not the most competent or successful vehicle in normal dry conditions. A bit of a handful, but you guys seem to have really mastered it over the last couple of months to get it to the front with Nils in sprint races and in endurance races.
Yeah, of course. But at the end, you guys see only the result on the track, right? If we're performing well, but everything what goes down in the background, it's just we spend a lot of hours trying everything, analyzing the car, each corner, trying to, everything to put to perfection. It's just a really, really, nice challenge to face because, of course, it's like if we would jump just in a different car, we would have, have it easier to maybe win and need to spend less time to prepare. But it's just a really nice challenge to take this M6, this underdog car, and perform well with it.
How much of it, the kind of team behind 3, or do you have engineer and strategist working as well?
We are working, as a group of 3. So Nils, Artur, and I, we're doing everything: strategy, setup, everything.
But Nils himself is an incredible analyst and really doesn't leave anything on the table when it comes to detail, does he?
Yeah, of course. We are second guessing everything. That's what I learned from Nils. Always like previously when I build setup, I know how a car works. I know what a tweak does, but it's really nice, to work with Nils and Artur because they are second guessing everything. Is it really doing that? So you really need to know it quite, perfect. It's quite cool.
And one of the things I love about ACC that we don't necessarily see in other platforms is there is an element of unpredictability because we do have dynamic weather in those races, and as we saw, I think in the previous round at Spa-Francorchamps, it can change and then throw everything out the window.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is like, even if you prepare, for example, wet pressures or so, you don't know how the pressures develop in the race, and because you have suddenly 50 cars on the track and they maybe drive a different line or so, and it's hard to really prepare for the outcome, which pressures you need to pick in the pit stop. So there's always this, unpredictability. It's not that nice for us as a drivers, because if we have like 2 psi off the optimal pressure target, then the stint is of course crap. But for the viewers, it's quite entertaining, I guess.
And it's very sensitive, isn't it, ACC, with the temperature and the pressure settings of tyres?
Yeah, exactly, Ben. I mean, for example, just take Donington, the race on Saturday. The pressure window from the normal dry tires is around 27.5 psi. And because the track is so narrow, and if you go off, there's already grass, you can run quite quickly into a pressure loss. So you drive just 1 millimeter off the track and you lose 0.3 psi. And then suddenly the car balance changes slightly in the corner. And if you do that several times, you don't stop at a certain value. It just will keep dropping over the entire stint. And then maybe you end up with a complete wrong balance at the end. So it's quite sensitive in terms of tire pressures, this game.
That's cool though, right? That's what really adds to the challenge and means that, I sometimes look at sim racing from a sim racing fan perspective, but also from a real world perspective, and think there isn't enough of that unpredictability and that detail to trip you guys up. I know that you guys don't want to be tripped up, but as viewers, as commentators, we like to see that drama. And if you do make a little mistake, then there are consequences that perhaps we don't see in other platforms.
Of course, I really liked it, and I think this distinguishes, the perfect, really good sim drivers from the average ones, right? Imagine like we wouldn't have this, sensitive pressure in ACC. You would just go off track, and it wouldn't, give you a penalty. Basically, you could just push over 100% every lap without, any disadvantage, right? But just to be this driver, or the driver that is right on the edge, to going off track but not going to not get the pressure loss. That's what makes it count in the end. And if you are able to do that, it benefits you.
And Gregor, talk a little bit about the relationship between G2 Esports and BMW Motorsport. How much feedback, how much support do you get from BMW?
Yeah, I mean, we always are, trying to keep in touch, trying to say what the car does, so what is going right with the car, what is wrong, maybe, some correlating stuff with the real car and stuff. So yeah, it's good help.
And because the reason why you speak to BMW is because they have the ability to then influence BOP and things like that, and updates in the game in a way that perhaps you as a team don't, but that then will benefit you moving forward in various championships.
I mean, that would be quite cool, because especially like in ACC, you see that the M6 GT3 BOP-wise is pretty hit on, 80% of the tracks approximately. Like there are some tracks like Donington, maybe Monza, where the car is really good and is able to fight for the wins, but on most tracks it's just not there. And of course, for us drivers, we don't want even to have an overpowered car. We just want to have a car where we can compete with the others, that we, as maybe the best drivers of the race, that the best drivers will then win, the race, and not because they are in the right car. That's like what would be cool. And if we can do that, get a better BOP for the car, that we can compete with the Ferrari or McLaren, for example, on some tracks, that would be great.
Absolutely. But I tell you what, you guys are doing a great job of flying that BMW flag really, really well. Gregor, talk a little bit about your history. How did you understand that there was the possibility to go racing on computers?
Well, quite funny actually. Like I was watching F1 since I can remember, basically, right? And yeah, I think on my 17th birthday or so, I got a wheel. And first of all, I just didn't pick it up quite much. But then after a year or so, I just decided, hey, come on, let's try more. Then, picked a new F1 game up, had an offer from a friend back then to also do like my first sim race in AC back then. And from there onwards, it just built everything up, till now I'm with G2.
So why AC and then ACC? What made you stick with those? And have you dabbled with the other platforms at all?
The main reason was, I think back then it was 2019 start, I think. I'm not sure. I think ACC was available there already, but it was still at early access. Yeah. And yeah, AC1 already had this infrastructure here in Germany with a big community where you could already do like big endurance races with 24 hours and stuff. And that's where I picked up basically driving a real sim, not like F1, which is like some sort of between arcade and sim. And yeah, then after a year, I moved to ACC.
And what about R Factor 2 and iRacing and Project Cars? Have you ever really had an experiment with any of those?
Yeah, I mean, I also have iRacing installed on my PC, but it just, yeah, I'm not, I don't like the physics and the force feedback that much like in ACC, and it's also really hard, from a driver perspective to drive multiple sims if you want to be on the high level, in one sim.
And is that the target, to obviously enjoy your racing, but to be the very, very best you can be?
I mean, of course, if I wouldn't like to be that, I wouldn't be here, chatting with you, right? So it's always pushing myself and yeah, trying to be as quick as possible.
Do you think it's quite interesting you say, because we speak to some drivers and they see the pinnacle of being an esports racing driver as being good on multiple platforms, but you really want to focus on one and be the best on one.
I mean, right now, right? If we would drive like with G2 and BMW in a different sim, I wouldn't say no, I guess. I already tried iRacing and R Factor 2, as I said earlier, and like pace-wise, I don't think I would have a big problem to adapt. But you of course need a lot of time to get used to get this last 1 or 2%. But yeah, just right now, I'm focusing mainly on ACC.
So 12 hours of Donington last weekend, but what about sprint racing? What about the shorter races? Which do you prefer, the longer ones or the shorter ones?
Honestly, like I think sprint races, they have a much higher, tension. It's just, much more happening in a shorter period of time. So it's something special. And endurance races is more like above, a long-term perspective. You need always to think about the end and not about, what's happening right now. So always like a long shot. And, sprint endurance races and sprint races and endurance races, they all have some advantages and disadvantages, but I think I actually prefer endurance races because of the outcome, that if you're really pushing and if you're really doing a good job, doing no mistakes, you most of the time actually end up at the top, because almost every other team does mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially in ACC, that's certainly a place where we do see some unpredictability, and it's great that ACC has such incredible support from the likes of VCO, SimGrid, and obviously SRO themselves, putting together a huge program of events. It kind of gives a great pat on the back to Kunos, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course, it's massive too, because I mean, I think a lot of people forget that you can't compare like the development studios like from Kunos to like big companies like EA. Behind Kunos there may be 20, 30 people who are working behind the game, and they do such a impressive job. And then if SimGrid and VCO SRO come into place and put like such amazing events, which really lead all the best drivers in the world to participate there, it's just amazing.
So, what are the ambitions then? Obviously, you've done pretty well since 2019 to get yourself into G2, which is also a huge organisation in itself. But then I see the Red Bull logo on the t-shirt, and you're obviously partnering with BMW. So it's the sky's the limit, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly like what I achieved in the last 2 years. If you would tell me that 2 years ago I would be sitting here with a G2 jersey here on, and I would just think, yeah, come on, yeah, of course. But yeah, it's just amazing where I am right now, and I hope I can still improve as a driver, especially like with teammates as Nils and Arthur, where I still can learn a lot from them. I mean, I'm only 20 years old, and there's still time to come, and I hope I can improve myself even more in the future.
And they're really old, aren't they?
Yeah, just a little bit.
I know that Nils is going to watch, and I know that Nils is going to have a go at me, and Arta as well, because I said that Arta dive bombed on Friday night, and he didn't like that at all. So I've had stick from both of them many times. Any interest in going real world racing? Is that a silly question?
Not a silly question. I think if I get the offer, I wouldn't say no, of course, because I really like to feel the difference, comparing to driving a sim and then to the real car, with the G-forces and stuff. Would be really nice to see if I will be like overwhelmed. Oh my God, I'm moving in the car also. But yeah, I would really like that, to feel the difference.
But you have no experience at all. Have you done any track days or any kind of big karts?
And no, mate, actually, I just finished last year my driving license, and that was, the exam was actually the last time I drove a car.
Oh, you didn't even drive since?
No. I mean, with COVID and stuff, there was no
Yeah.
really reason to drive. So.
So you've got the license. That's good. At least when somebody asks you to take them for a lift, if you can find a car, you can take them.
Yeah. I can.
But was that easy? Was that easy to do driving license, considering you already had the kind of car control from the sim?
Quite funny story, I have to say. When I was, driving on the roads and stuff like, and there is of course a speed limit which you have to, keep an eye on. And I was like, driving was quite easy, I have to say. And I was like, man, that's not the limit of the car, because you from the sim you feel like the tires curve and stuff. But yeah, of course you don't do that. I mean, it's 80. You keep on the speed limit, of course.
Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? You never get the chance to get to the limit of a road car, unless you're being naughty.
Yeah. I mean, that's what track days are for, right? So, or in the sim, right? I mean, I don't think there is actually a real reason to drive quick on the roads with other cars in normal traffic. I think that's just silly. Yeah, but on a track day, I think that would be quite cool to just feel the experience, how it is with the G-forces and stuff.
Do you want to get to a point where, and do you think it's possible to get to a point where sim racing is the only thing you do? No studying, no real work, and this is where your money solely comes from. Is that a possibility in these days?
I think it's quite hard because you have to have this big guys behind the scenes pumping in the money to make it like some sort of big business, right? And sim racing is only in its earliest moments, and I think maybe in the future it will be possible. But right now, I think it's quite hard. And yeah, a sim racing career, I think, is also not lasting quite long, I would say, because there are always new guys coming, So I think if sim racing, grows more, and then there will be definitely the possibility.
So for your real life, as it were, what's the ambition? Are you interested in cars and engineering, stuff like that? Taking your experiences online into the real world?
Yeah, I mean, I'm studying physics, so it's definitely maybe something to do with cars. But yeah, like long term, I would definitely like to have a career in sim racing because I just really like the scene. I'm also doing coaching and setup work with Coach Dev Academy, so with David Perel and the other guys. So yeah, definitely looking forward to maybe making this in the future on the long term perspective as the main job, sim racing in general.
So creating setups is something that you're really kind of passionate about. Do you think perhaps you could become an engineer in real world motorsport?
Yeah, I mean, I guess with the background or so, it could be possible always. If you want to go for it, I think, you are the only limit to yourself, I think. And yeah, if you really want to achieve that, I think it would be possible. But I'm rather seeing myself, as a driver or instructor to other guys to help them improve their own driving.
Awesome. Gregor, it's been a real pleasure to chat to you. Give my best to the mates Arthur and Nils the next time you speak to them. And yeah, if you see him in person, always punch Nils in the arm because he deserves it all the time. It's go on.
Because Ben, you said it. I will tell him the first time I will meet him in real life. That was from Ben, right? I will give him the fist against the arm.
So hang on, have you never met him in the real world?
No, I mean, I think I was the first time in contact about this, junior program, if you want to call it, I think in November or December or so. And yeah, I mean, since then, with the entire COVID situation, we never got really to meet, as a team. But yeah, maybe, with the entire COVID situation, going now or getting better, I think maybe there will be, a time where we can have a meeting.
Have a beer.
Yeah,
very important.
Yeah, have a beer. Yeah. Enjoy the win of Donington then again.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because in the sim racing world, you don't have that chance to go to the local bar and share a drink or two at the end of a hard fought weekend. You kind of boot down the computer, and then how do you celebrate?
Yeah, I mean, of course, after the race, we just not say bye and turn the PC off and just go to sleep. I mean, we still chat about the race, what we did good, what we did maybe not so good in other races. But yeah, it's just we still I think celebrate after the race, in the Discord with each other, and it's still a cool atmosphere, right? To feel it's the same emotions. I mean, we don't see each other, but we still feel that win,
Yeah. It's a different world. It really is. Well, I do hope you get a chance to meet your teammates at some point in the real world. And it's been enlightening to chat to you. Thank you so much for chatting to us, to being so honest. And good luck with the rest of the season on SimGrid, and I know that there's lots and lots of other things in the pipeline for VCO and for ACC. So the future is great in that platform, that's for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. It was also a pleasure from my side. Really enjoyed that one.
Awesome. Well, next week, as per usual, we don't know who it's going to be, but please tune in on Mondays at 8 p.m. Central European time for another guest combining the virtual and the real world of motorsports. Until then, enjoy your sim racing.